All right. I want to say we are live. Can everybody hear me? All right. Give folks a minute. All right. So, can everybody hear me? Am I on? All righty. Thank you all for coming to yet another mid full moon madness. I'm Greyhawk Grognard, your host for the evening, at least for the next hour or so. Hey, Wayne's World, great to see you. Timothy, Eric, Jared, Satori. I think Satori's here. Great to see you all. Well, it's funny you should mention the Daniel Cutter Jockey. Oh, awesome to see you. It's funny you should mention the poster. Where did I just had it out too. What did I do with it? I just the other day. I can't find it now. Just the other day, I had the poster from Dragon for Saga of Old City. I just had it out, and I don't know what I did with it, which is annoying. But it's funny you should say that. And I want to jump into our topic today. We can work in other things as we go on, but I wanted to kind of show off a couple of rarities when it comes to the Gygax's Gord the Rogue books. We have here one of the Troll Lord Games editions. Hey, Graphite Dragon, good to see you. This was supposed to be the first of a series. They were going to reprint them in hardcover. I think they were re-edited. They've got some cool things in there. But of course, when Troll Lords lost the license for Castle Zagig, the license to reprint the books went with it. So unfortunately, you have to scour used bookstores to find the books. And I've got a couple here. This is, to my mind, still one of the best intros to the world of Greyhawk. Steve, good to see you. Yeah, I know. What happened to Troll Lords was weird and baffling. To this day, I don't know. I don't follow the logic, honestly. But we've got that one. We've got Artifact of Evil. These are in no particular order. Dance of Demons, Sea of Death, City of Hawks, Knight Errant, Come Endless Darkness, and one you might not know. Hey, Terry, Pawn of Chaos. This is actually an homage book for Tales of the Eternal Champion. It was a bunch of authors that wrote Eternal Champion stories. So, and Gygax actually has one in here. It is a Gord the Rogue book called Evening Odds. So if you can track this down, because it does have a piece of Gord ephemera in there. And it's been a while since I've read it, but as I recall, this is when he is not on Earth anymore. He is now he's the demiurge, or no, he's the Lord of Cats on this other world. So that's but it's still him. And there's also another one out there. I didn't dig up the reference, but if you Google it, you'll find it. There is another short story out there in some other book, something like that, where it's a compilation from a bunch of authors, and Gygax did another Gord the Rogue story for that, and I've never tracked that down. And there are, of course, a few stories in Dragon, like there's the one in Dragon 100 at Moonset. Black Cat comes, and which was the first one. So it's to my mind, I just love the way that Gygax's prose fleshes out the world of Greyhawk. It's just I know people make fun of high Gygaxian, but I enjoy the style, and I think it really gives a feel for how Gygax, possibly not how he ran his own game, but how he imagined his game should be run, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I find it a very useful glimpse into into his mind when it comes to the world. Um, there's a new Moorcock novel out. Didn't I hear that they're making an Elric TV show? I thought I could have sworn somebody did that, or is in the process of doing that. So I don't know. I think, yeah, no, I think I'm right. I think I did hear that they're doing an Elric TV show, which I hope it doesn't get ruined, but we shall see. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of things like Rings of Power. I ended up, I wanted to like it so much, and then by the end I was hate watching it. But on the other hand, I had the reverse reaction with House of the Dragon. I didn't care for it so much at the beginning, but it really grew on me by the end. So we shall see. Alrighty, let me catch up on some commenting here. Wonder if anyone still has Gary's notes. Yes, there are a lot of Gary's notes extant, a lot more than he actually admitted when after he left TSR. They recently, a few years ago, they were all cataloged, photographed, and basically preserved so that they could be at some point in the future that something could be done with them. They were in a storage unit or something, or in his widow's basement or something. But yeah, a gazillion notes are out there, including doubtless the original Castle Greyhawk. I know for a fact that the city-state of Stoink, Wasp's Nest, was in there because I asked. That there was an AMA, and that was my question. Did Gary really have Stoink? And the answer was yes, he did. It was in his notes. So there's a ton of stuff in there. So let me see here. Graphite Dragon, sad, so late to the Greyhawk party. And my be a little Greyhawk fan last. Oh yeah, you can still find the novels in used bookstores. Every once in a while, I'll run across one, and they don't really know how rare it is. And they're only a couple of bucks. I think I have a few in here that I paid like $1.50 for at a used bookstore over the years. So they're definitely out there. And if you really care, you can find them on eBay. They go for quite a bit more, but they're out there. I'd love to see a series based on Carl Edward Wagner's Kane stories. I'm not sure I'm familiar. Jared, speaking of TV, oh yes, the Critical Role cartoon. I agree. I'm not the biggest fan of 5e, but I don't hate it. I will play it. It's not my game of choice, but I'll play it. And I find the cartoon Vox Machina. I find it perfectly fine. I have a blast watching it. It's a lot of fun. Some of the humor is obviously sophomoric, and it's by design. But if you go into it expecting that, and it's not annoying. So I have a lot of fun with it. They've done a good job with it, and I'm happy for them. Arg Scott. Oh yes, I didn't get it on Etsy. I got it on a place called what was it? You Customize It. The letter U, Customize It. .com, and then you just go there. You upload. You will have to put a file together, like a PDF of the design, and you do that. You upload it, and boom. A couple weeks later, I had curtains. You'll notice though, they get a little cut off because the curtains have a certain height and width, obviously. So I had to kind of like segment the map into panels. And the way I did this was I actually have a file with a panel going east and another one going west. But since I knew it wouldn't fit on the door, I didn't bother. I didn't bother to get it made. But so you'll have to kind of work at it to get it to work. But youcustomizeit.com. That's where I got this. Let me see, Eric. The downstairs shelves had a gazillion books. Oh yeah, absolutely. Scott. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Scott. Oh crap, the Dragon article had a Ultimate General Kane versus L. Oh, okay. Oh, neat. Okay. Steve Bonario, what's the difference between Doubtless and Greyhawk Ruins? Was Ruins an adaptation? I don't know what you're asking. I don't know what Doubtless is. So if you can, Steve, just let me know in the chat what you mean by Doubtless. Of Matt Mercer's and Gary Gygax's. Yeah, exactly, Jared. It's they're a lot of people make a lot out of the Mercer effect, and I think there is something to that it sets unrealistic expectations for people who are coming into the game. That's a legitimate thing to say, but I don't think it's his fault that that they do it well. I think a lot of people could aspire to that level of fun and preparedness and talent. It's I don't see it necessarily as a bad thing that they run a good game in the style that they want, but it is also true to say that it can set up unrealistic expectations and lead to disappointment when a person gets into a game that isn't at that level. But you could say that with anything, with any kind of game. If your first exposure to Dungeons and Dragons was playing with Gary Gygax, at a con or something, and then you went back to your home table and it was nothing like that, it would be the same idea. It's just a question of setting your expectations, I think. Joe, are you releasing new versions of the core books that incorporate the Lost Lore and Beast material? Okay. Valamir, welcome to the chat, by the way. All right. So the Book of Lost Lore and the Book of Lost Beasts are basically all the new stuff, plus additional material that was in the original Player's Manual, Game Master Toolkit, and Bestiary. At this time, I am not planning on reissuing any of those 3 core books. In fact, my thinking right now is that I'm going to be pivoting Adventures Dark and Deep from its own system to a series of supplemental books for other games. Because right now, I notice this at conventions, that people get a little confused because I've got core books and I've got supplements, and I say that, well, you can use it with any game, but why do you have your own game? It gets a little muddled. So I'm actually I'm actually kind of stepping away from the core book idea. Whether or not it will be taken down eventually, I don't know. I'm frankly leaning towards doing that at some point. I don't have to now, obviously, that they back down on the OGL, but it did give me reason to think about, do I want to take them down and only have Adventures Dark and Deep as a series of supplements? Certainly at conventions, I won't be carrying them anymore. It doesn't cost me anything to have them up on drive-through, so there is that. I'm not sure I'm ready to just take down products because they don't fit my model when I'm still making money on them. But in terms of them being updated at any point, or me selling them at conventions or whatever, I think it would probably be safe to say I'm not going to be supporting them as a standalone game. So I hope that long-winded explanation answered your question. Oh, right. Steve, yes, that's exactly what I meant. I meant doubtless there would be a lot of notebooks in and amongst the books. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to imply that doubtless was a thing. Jared, okay, bought Joe's BRW Games material. Thank you very much. For the same reason I bought the 1E. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I personally play with it, so all right, let me go back up. Jared, yeah. So having gotten caught up on this, I wanted to, there's a few things to talk about with the books, with the books, especially once we get into the territory of these 2 books, where Gygax was pretty much giving the middle finger to TSR and decided to destroy Greyhawk. as part of the novel. What I would love to see now, this is how cool would this be if this was in his notes? The original outline of how the story was supposed to go. Before, assuming he had such an outline. Before he left TSR, I would love to see the direction that the books were going to be going in. But these two books, they do destroy the world, and he did that very deliberately because he was angry with TSR and his treatment, and completely understandably. So on that level, those two books at least need to be treated as a kind of a variant, in the multiverse. It's not the actual Orth that we have. But that said, I still think there is a ton of great material, even in these two books, in terms of describing the different demon lords and the different races of demons and the abyss and all that good stuff. There's a ton of stuff that can be mined out of there for a game. In fact, there was a website which I think is still around. If you Google Gord's Greyhawk, I forget who did it, but they went through every one of the books and they itemized all the different places and NPCs and all kinds of stuff that are in there. So it's an invaluable resource if you're going to be doing any research into the books. Now, my favorite of the books is Knight Errant. This is the series of short stories, and it gives a whole bunch of different things, different looks at the world of Greyhawk and the city, and of course, it gives us Odd Alley, which is a great idea to have in the city of Greyhawk, and I hope everybody has one. That leads to this zone, this demi-plane of different conduits to different alternate realities and stuff. But I'm a sucker for a short story collection, and that really is just so perfect. I wish he had written 3 or 4 more of those. Although, as I said at the beginning, in terms of an introduction to Greyhawk, Saga of Old City is great because not only does it give you the information about the city itself, but it also does cover the wider Flanaess, the Rennie folk, the Atloy, their land-based cousins, the political machinations up in the Blemu Hills and stuff. It's just absolutely I love it as an introduction. Although you got to say that City of Hawks is invaluable because it gives us the map. It's a small map. It's just a little sketch, and it gives the different areas of the city, but it's invaluable. And in fact, I did a city map based on that. It's up on the blog, and I actually keyed it to the City of Greyhawk box set, so you could use that map with their books, and it all works. Just because I wanted something that felt a little more authentic. All right. So Valamir, future AD&D, correct. Yeah. The going forward, everything that I put out for Adventures Dark and Deep is going to be in the supplement line. It'll either be a book of whatever or a swords of whatever. The book of series is intended to be a little more generic, and the swords of series is intended to be a little more genre specific. So the first one was Swords of Cthulhu. The next one will be Swords of Wuxia, which is kung fu movies and such. So that's really the difference there. Right now, Swords of Wuxia is almost done, and it should be out in the next couple of months. And I'm already working on redoing the random encounter and terrain book. I'm fixing up a lot of stuff and basically changing the names back, because as it is today, the random encounter tables all use the names from the Adventures Dark and Deep Bestiary, because I was working under the OGL 1.0a. Certain names you can't use, certain things weren't open game content, so I had to make changes. But under the new regime, I'm not worrying about that. I'm not publishing under that license anymore, so I'm not bound by its restrictions. in terms of open game content, and the list of forbidden words that you can't use no longer applies. So, thank you, Wizards of the Coast, for opening up a new avenue for me. But yeah, so going forward, it's all going to be supplements for 1E, Osric, Swords and Wizardry, Labyrinth Lord, Old School Essentials, and the stuff in there will work with almost anything of that ilk, because everything is pretty much interchangeable anyway. And even the ascending, descending armor class, just subtract the armor class from 10 and boom, you've got ascending armor class. So yay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good luck walking the dog. Wish there were audible versions of the Gordon novels. Well, if they ever do release them, I'm sure that would come. If they ever gave the rights to somebody to do a republishing job. Like I say, I think it's a crime that we never got a full series of these, and that even this first one was cut short. And I was lucky enough to get one. But I would love to have a section on my shelf that was just all the entire run in this great hardcover format. So yeah, but I can't imagine that eventually it'll happen. Eventually it has to happen, one way or the other. So, and I would imagine that there'll be audible versions when they do that. Steve, Gary's short stories. Oh yes, the shadow of Fritz Lieber and Jack Vance and Robert E. Howard and a lot of those old sci-fi fantasy authors is very, very long over Greyhawk. And you're right, it does show up in the novels. In the appendix of, I think it was in the appendix of Saga of Old City, he says that it wasn't until after he'd already written it that somebody pointed out that Gord and Chert were a lot like Fafford and the Grey Mouser. I can't imagine that that didn't occur to him when he was writing it. So I don't give him credit for that. I think that was, if not intentional, at least noticed at the time. John, good to see you. Welcome aboard. Late or not, you're always welcome. You're very welcome, Valamir. Let's see, Jared. Did Joe say anything about migrating Gord characters? Well, yes. At the end of the series, when Orth is destroyed, Gord and Cheller and a couple of others, Geller. I mean, Gord and Geller and a couple of the other characters wind up in a new world. Where they assume different positions of great authority. I think it's Aerth. I forget which of them it is. It's doesn't. I don't see it off the top of my head. Oh, that's because it was this one. It's now Proctor Cronus. Okay, I can't find the name of it, but it's Arthur, Arthur, one of those. Yarth, yeah, it could be. I forget which one it is. I know it's not the same as the one from the Endless Quest books. But it's one of those when they change around the vowels. Oh yes. Gord novel characters showing up in the game materials. Yeah, Geller. At least the name Geller shows up early on. Evelay is mentioned, like you say, as in Radek. I'm trying to think of other characters who might have made the jump. I mean, obviously, there's characters from the game material that show up in the books, but the other way around. Because like obviously Opmi started off in Castle Greyhawk, and he first appeared in Hall of the Fire Giant King, and then he shows up obviously in the books. But in terms of the other way around, I'm trying to think. Geller definitely. I can't think of another one other than Evelay, who was mentioned later on. Yeah, Michael, I'd have to go through it. I don't remember off the top of my head, but Keek probably made it. in the Ayus that you mentioned. Keek is probably there. Probably the gnome too, Gibble or Rebel or something like that. Yeah, Fafford. Yeah, it just rolls right off. Yes, that's where Geller is the rulers of one of them in there. I think it might be Ernst. Yeah, Gravestone is actually one of my favorite characters. I did a lot of what I included in, or I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the stuff that I included in Adventures Great and Glorious uh, directly came out of how Gravestone was depicted in the books, where there's a disguise thing, a disguise skill, just like he did, and you can set up networks of agents and things like that. That was all based out of the stuff that he came up with for Gravestone. Um, Curly Greenleaf was actually one of his characters. Was actually Gygax's character, the druid. Um, um, yeah, I don't have my. No, actually, I do have my thing handy. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Wait a second, I'm gonna now. I gotta look this up because it's gonna annoy me. No, it was something. It wasn't. It's not the rulers of Ernst, Ballisica and Carl. I don't remember honestly. And the Andre Norton book. Yeah, there's actually a second Andre Norton. It's a Return to Quag Keep, which I have, but have not read. Hey, Carlos, good to see you. Welcome aboard. Yeah, so like I said, I don't know. Somebody, I'm sure you can all hear the door. Hey, Tony. No hurry discussing this. Don't play D&D. Satori, great to see you. Sorry, there's just a little commotion downstairs. I'm waiting for it to subside. Okay, here we go. Don't play D&D much more, but still enjoy reading the old school modules. Yeah, I don't play nearly as much as I would like, and I'm in the same boat. I read way more modules than I play. I can say that with surety. Uh, and even the old stuff. I mean, I obviously I do a lot of it for the channel, but I really enjoy it. I enjoy flipping through the old modules. I think one series I haven't looked through in a long time are the UK novel, the UK 1, 2, and 3, the Gauntlet Sentinel and Gauntlet and Sentinel are the two Greyhawk ones, I think. I mean, in my case, it's also the fact that I don't like to play online. I've tried it. I have tried to play online, and I just actively dislike it. I don't know what it is. There's something about not being physically at a table with people. I can't concentrate. I can't get into it. I'm too focused on other things. I'm too easily distracted by other things that are going on my screens. I don't know what it is. I don't enjoy it, so I won't play it. I won't play the game online, unfortunately. So, anywho, now one of the things about the novels is I'm not aren't the Salt Marshmallow. Now I'm thinking of Gauntlet and Sentinel. What were they? The Salt Marsh modules are U. Salt Marsh modules are U1, 2, and 3. There's also a UK 1 and 2. But one thing I'm not a huge fan of in the novels is Tharizdun. I know this was supposed to be like the big debut because he was a big mystery. in the setting. But personally, I would have liked to see him remain a mystery rather than being the focal point of the later novels. And I get it. I get that was the whole thrust of the modules. And maybe this is what, like we were talking about earlier, about what the original plan might have been. But I would love to have seen them be able to use the artifacts to kind of put Tharizdun back in the bottle, so to speak. But as it is, when something like that gets so built up as a big bad guy, and then you get to see the details, it can't help but lessen it. I think it's like with Lovecraft, where it's much better to to not have it described fully, right? It's just the vague shape in the darkness or whatever. But when you start to itemize it and give a full description in the bright sign in the bright light, it kind of diminishes it as a threat. And I kind of feel that way about Tharizdun in the books. All right, so let me go back through some of the comments here. The UK TSR modules are wonderful. I remember playing through Gauntlet and Sentinel at one point back in high school. The Desert Desolation. Yeah, I had Desert of Desolation back in the day, and I never really did much with it. And then I got, I kind of got rid of it when I focused my collection on Greyhawk. Tharizdun and Azathoth. I know that there are other parallels between Lovecraftian deities and Greyhawk. Like Dalt, the god of locks and openings and stuff. Is almost supposed to be who is the opener of the way in Lovecraft? Might be it's not Azathoth. It's anyway, that one. There's supposed to be kind of an equivalency there. Yog-Sothoth, yes, that's right. So there's supposed to be an equivalency there between Dalt and Yog-Sothoth, because of that, the opener of the way kind of thing. All right, let me go back here. UK 1 Beyond the Crystal Cave, UK 2 Sentinel, Sentinel and Gauntlet I know are in the Sea Princes, so that's an interesting thing. All right, have to reread A Star Falls. I remember being the steam-powered tanks for two. Starfall. Oh, right. Yep. Michael Rooney does seem like Artifact of Evil takes a turn from the picaresque Vance Lieber mode into an epic quest. Yes, that's where it does start. But because it was one of the old TSR novels, back when Gary was still there and in charge, it makes me think that was going to be the setup for a quest that ended a very different way. Because he had no interest in destroying the world when he was still in the company. But as you point out, that's where the quests started, and I think we would have seen a few smaller quests, maybe trilogies of books along those lines. Steve, Jared really liked the mythology created around Dread Tharizdun and the creation of Earth, right? Yep. I think you mentioned that in the past. Steve, I've used WG4 several times over the years. Yeah, the one that I wrote extensively about it, and I think I did a video about WG4 as well. And there's two things that strike me about it. The first being the good stuff is behind a secret door that is really improbable to find. If you don't find that one secret door under those stairs in the building to get to the actual shrine, it just comes across as, oh, we found a layer of humanoids that came at us in waves. So there's an incentive to really search around for that, and the DM has to somehow communicate that to the players that there's more here that you haven't found. And this is where I think the use of divination spells is really comes into the fore. But the best part for me, when you finally get to the shrine part, is that the the players have to assume uh, the, the role of cultists of Tharizdun to make progress. You got to put on the robes. You have to touch the 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 idol. You have to use the torches and stuff. And in so doing, you are actually permanently changing that character in a lot of ways. And I refer to it as character horror in the same way that you have like body horror is a thing where things get changed, in horrible ways. In this, your character gets changed in horrible ways the more you go into the dungeon, the further you go, because you have to actually turn into a worshiper of Tharizdun ultimately to really get the most out of the thing, because you touch the thing and then Tharizdun is in your thoughts, and you have to wear the robes and do the thing. It's a brilliant way of corrupting not just the player, but the character gets changed in the process. I love that. All right, let me see here now. Michael, yes, I think you're correct. It's 1, 2, and 3. I forgot about the crystal cave. Not the world destroying finale. I agree completely. Yeah, unfortunately, Greyhawk has never really been much about deserts. Although, obviously you have the bright desert in the middle of the map, which I think is deliberate because in the original campaign, I don't think there's a coincidence that you've got every kind of terrain within a couple of 100 miles of the city of Greyhawk. You've got swamps, you've got hills, you've got forests, you've got mountains, you've got desert, you've got the lake, you've got the ocean. I don't think that's a coincidence that all of the interesting terrain is right there, because originally, obviously, that was the focus of the campaign, and you didn't need to have that level of interesting terrain everywhere in the world. Alrighty, back to the comments here. The Living Paradox. Yes, I remember that. Yeah, that is cool. That he didn't know how to find it. Excellent. Jared, all the gods fought against him. Cool. Jason, welcome aboard. Do I personally play OD&D type games? I play AD&D with my Adventures Dark and Deep expansions. I also play 5th edition when I'm at conventions. It is not my game of choice, but I will play it. I like it. I think AD&D is much better suited to a long-term campaign. And 5th edition is much more suited to either a one-shot or a very small campaign. Personally, though, I prefer AD&D. It's what I grew up with, and I can pretty much run it without the books at this point. The players were terrified going down. Exactly. Using the black ice to imprison. That's really cool. My own theory about the black ice is that it's the opening to the hollow earth, because back in the 19th century, there was a phenomenon called black ice in the real world, and Arctic explorers would find this stuff, and it turns out it was pollen trapped in the ice, and they thought for a while that it was coming from some interior of the earth where things were much warmer and tropical, and that was spitting out pollen. But I know it showed up in a bunch of early explorers journals and things like that, and I would bet money that's where Gygax got the idea. Alrighty, Satori, some Dark Sun. Well, the thing about the problem with the deserts in the Flanaess is that they're not big enough for the Dark Sun material, right? I mean, even the Bright Desert is a couple of 100 miles across. The Sea of Dust, even, it's not. I mean, yes, it's a desert technically, but it's not got sand, So for my money, it's kind of, and plus it's so hostile an environment that there's no real civilization there. There's no real cities. Everything has to be underground. So you kind of lose the idea of cities in the deserts and oases and things. You lose that. Now, if you go further out into Orc, in the southeastern part of the continent, where there's just vast deserts, that might work a lot better. In fact, now you've got me thinking about that, because I'm working on my Beyond the Flanness stuff again, and I'm mapping out that area. So now you got me thinking about you trying to use some of the Dark Sun material for that. So great, thank you. The only thing that bothers me with 5e is the characters can be overpowered. Yeah, you're not wrong, especially about the death save thing where you just don't die essentially. Um, I mean, we managed it when I first played it. We were doing one of the early playtest things at a con, and we managed to get completely wiped out by zombies. We just rolled so badly that even 5e couldn't keep us alive. But let's see. Is the ultimate desert of World of Greyhawk. That's just it. It's almost too deadly to use as a location, because you can't really. The only thing to do in the Sea of Dust is to get out of it. There's no real, nothing really there for you. Desert of Desolation in the eastern bit of the dry steppe. Yeah, I could see that. There's also, of course, the so imaginatively titled Erypt on the Dragon Annual 1 map. You could always put it there, I suppose, because they're pharaohs. Michael, yes, the more Thor's appears in the later novels, the less material. Yeah. Yeah, basically. Yeah, I forgot about the bold print. Rob Kuntz's Dark God with the Dark Druids. Yep, I completely agree. I don't think Rob's stuff gets enough attention. He just came out with another 2 things, which I downloaded and have not yet read, out of his new publishing site. Well, it's not new, but it's relatively new. It's the one after Pied Piper. And he comes up with a lot of really inventive stuff, and I think I would love to see him getting a little more attention in terms of the stuff that he's putting out today, because he's still publishing stuff erratically, but he's still publishing it. So I would wholeheartedly suggest it. As far as where it is, freelinestudio.com. That's it. 3 line line studio.com. That's the new pub. Got 2 new things out there, so I would definitely suggest heading out there. Where are we going here? Okay, so John, the Sea of Death. No, honestly, I think everybody kind of stayed away from the Sea of Dust area because it was the subject of an entire novel. And I know I didn't want to do anything with it, in terms of the stuff that I like to do, because I would be basically ripping off a lot of the stuff out of the novel. And without Gail's permission, I wouldn't feel right doing that. And of course, such permission would almost certainly not be forthcoming. The Otherworldly City of Lord. Yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of loose threads that I'm sure are kicking around somewhere in his files. I'm sure he's got that Otherworldly City all done up. But there was a lot of stuff in the early Greyhawk campaign that we only know from brief mentions, but it, I'm sure exists fully fleshed out in somebody's binder somewhere. The Blue Dragons and Psionics could be in the desert. Yeah, but it's again bringing us back to the thing. Thank you so much, Satori. I really, really appreciate it. Really, really helps every little bit. I appreciate the €2. Let's see now. Land of Black Ice has a Mystery City world, and that's actually cool, because in the original Blackmoor, which is of course right next to the Land of Black Ice in the world of Greyhawk, there was the City of the Gods, which was kind of a technological thing, and you could kind of tie that into the Land of Black Ice too, I suppose. Use the Langmar. I love the Langmar stuff that they did for D&D. I have most of it, and I use it to kind of supplement my City of Greyhawk. Tons of the little encounters here or there, the stories, the just there's so much little things that you can pick and choose out of those Lankhmar books and stick them right into Greyhawk, and they fit in so. And again, this ties back to what we were talking about earlier about the Fritz Lieber influences on Greyhawk. It fits in so well because it's tonally right, and that goes for the Fritz Lieber novels too. Thieves. What's the one where they go into the Thieves Guild? They're looking for something. I want to say Thieves in the House, but I know that's wrong because that's Conan. But that plot where they go into the head of the Thieves Guild, the headquarters, you could do that right in the. You could plunk that straight into the world of Greyhawk and it would work perfectly. There's a lot of stuff like that in those early novels. Yep, that's in the gold box. Yeah, I know. I did the random encounter tables as part of my walkthroughs. There's a lot of stuff tucked in those random encounter tables that just don't make a lick of sense, but they're there for flavor. It's a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, the Forbidden City, Thieves' House. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I am continuing my my not set in Greyhawk adventures every 3 months, and at some point I'll probably end up doing something in some big desert that's filled with dust. But of course, it wouldn't be this one because that would be wrong. Oh, thank you so much, Valimar. I very much appreciate it. Every bit of support helps. How do I handle the the difference between Tharizdun and the Elder Elemental Eye, Dweeblex, and Grumbar? Let's see. Oh, thank you, Jared. I'm glad I was able to inspire you to that. I hope you've read the new one, the R3. I was very pleased with the way that one came out. Okay, so Tharizdun and the Elder Elemental Eye. First of all, they are not the same. They are distinct entities. They are the Elder Elemental God is not an aspect of Tharizdun. They are separate. And I don't care what Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil says. That's same with Dweeblex. Just another. He's a demon, not connected in any way. Grumbar, I'm not remembering what Grumbar is, but I'll go out on a limb and say that's different too. Basically, I liken the Elder Elemental God. It is so utterly alien that it doesn't really. It's not really evil in that sense because it transcends our mortal versions of morality. It has such different desires and needs that we literally can't even comprehend them. Something like a demon, like Dweeblex or Demogorgon, even if they're insane and of course utterly evil, they still have comprehensible motives because they're they are native to this multiverse. Something like the Elder Elemental God, on the other hand, is so completely alien. And you get some of this in Lovecraft too, right? The great old ones aren't just evil in the mundane sense of our understanding morality. They're so completely beyond any comprehension of morals that we could describe that they're not even amoral. Their morality just doesn't apply in their case because they are so alien to our understanding of how the world works. And I would put the Elder Elemental God in that category, where it's just so alien and so bizarre. It is incomprehensible and all but in its incomprehensiality, that it becomes a great threat. Tharizdun, on the other hand, is relatively understandable, right? You can comprehend Tharizdun's motives, and we see a lot of this this is kind of what I was decrying in the books. He's at least how he's presented in the books. He's very, he's obviously evil and he wants to conquer things. But those are understandable motives. Those are, they're writ large, and he's so very powerful that he poses a unique threat. But you understand him, right? You know he wants conquest. He wants to rule things because that's what he is, which is a little different than the way he's presented in the gold box, because we have that. Why do I have all these glossographies? That's what I'm looking for. Because in the list of deities, he's given to eternal darkness and decay, and he's just evil, right? He's not neutral evil or lawful. He's just evil. So we have eternal darkness and decay, which is a little different than the way he's presented in Come Endless Darkness, unless you take eternal darkness to mean eternal rule by Tharizdun. But that's how I would describe the differences between them. Elemental God, completely and utterly alien. Tharizdun, completely and utterly powerful, but comprehensible. So anyway, I hope that answered your question. All right, let me keep going here. Carlos order for yep. Set it up as a permanent tab. Grumbar is more card. Okay, yeah. You never imagined collaborating with other Greyhawk connoisseurs and write a nice Greyhawk book lore campaign altogether. Well, the problem with that is you can't sell it. Satori, anything that actually uses the Greyhawk IP has to be given away under the terms of the fan content policy. So that really puts the kibosh on projects of that sort. That's why my modules are not set in Greyhawk. They're set in what I call Greyheim, because of that very incomprehensibility. Yes, thank you, David. Thank you, Dr. David, and welcome aboard. The boss of the elemental, yes, Jerry. Yeah, they have the. I think they did eventually fill them out. Might have been in Forgotten Realms that they did that. Valamir, yes, exactly. A Cthulhuoid cosmic horror, but not in the physical sense, but yes, in the existential sense. Oh yes, the other Carlos. Let's see, Michael Rooney. The only one Greyhawk, Carlos. Entropy. Okay, just skip the Greyhawk. Yeah, well, I mean, Satori, I hope you've seen some of the modules that I do. Things have to have names, and you can make them close enough that true fans will understand what you're talking about, but not so close that they, infringe on trademarks. Hey, Weird Fantastic Toy Adventures, whose name I can never remember. Welcome aboard. No, we've got a good 7 minutes to go. We've been talking about the Gourd the Road books, which are just an absolute hoot. And just for everybody who's come in a little late, I want to point out that if you can track down a copy of Pawn of Chaos, which is stories about the Eternal Champion, Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion, one of them is a Gary Gygax story that features Gourd. After the events of Come Endless Darkness. So, I think it's actually probably still in print. White Wolf actually did it. So I would definitely recommend that. Any thoughts on Roger Moore's The Adventure Begins and Return of the 8 series? I'm not up to speed on Return of the 8 as well as I should be. And that's, I have it obviously, and I've flipped through it. I've never run it. I've never played it. I have to give it a thorough read through, and I just haven't ever done that. As far as The Adventure Begins, I like it because it was it was the first published TSR product that actually mentioned stuff out of my Palmarge article from Dragon. So I am very much pro Adventure Begins. And in fact, I mentioned that online the other day, and And Roger Moore actually said he loved the article. So hey, so I have good thoughts on The Adventure Begins. It's a very workable intro. Because remember at the time there wasn't a lot of Greyhawk stuff of that ilk available. To give the overview. So it does the job well. All right, so here we go. Imagine the EEG as being erratic and not necessarily brilliant. Yeah, well, at the moment, he's not really in a position to make many demands, right? Because he is imprisoned, and there's several different versions of that imprisonment. One that Gary Gygax had written, was that his consciousness was entombed in a bunch of stones that were scattered across Earth by Biori. The original idea was that he was imprisoned and Lolth had the key to the prison, which is what I used in my Queen of Spiders adventure. But yeah, I mean, I tend to agree, Jared. There's not much that the Elder Elemental God is in a position to do. And don't forget, we do see those murals of the tentacled beings giving sacrifices in the temples of the eye. So, that's already... well, that's just it, Jared. Iklavdra found him a very easy deity to serve because he didn't have any plans other than get me out of here. I think once he was freed and started to make more demands on her, and that might have contradicted what her own plans were. I think that might have changed because we've seen over the years how her allegiances can shift. Let's see now. Jared, David, Tensor should form his own lawful good group. Yes, his own Justice League. Right, exactly. You're not wrong about the journal article, and he did give a lot more detail about the Elder Elemental God. I always got the impression that was kind of after the fact, and he didn't have that background in mind when he first wrote it. Back in the 70s for the Giants modules. I might be wrong about that, but I don't know. He had to do that because he had an agreement, Michael, with TSR that he could use the names that were derived from him and his own names, and he had limited use of some of the Greyhawk terminology as part of the agreement when he left to continue the books. But yeah, it was. There's definitely a lot of the. It's the name is similar but not the same, and that's what Carlos and I do with our modules, and I know a couple other people do it too. I should actually do a video on that on some of the other not Greyhawk modules. Scott, it was not a dragon. It was an Oerth journal, and Michael gives us the number. It's Oerth journal number 12, which is available for free on some website. I'm blanking on which site it is, but it's out there if you search for it. All right, we are coming up on time. Last call for questions. How's anything else we want to talk about tonight? I think this was really good talking about the old novels. Now I want to start reading them again, which is really cool. Yep, absolutely. Oh yeah, Cannon Fire is absolutely still around. It's around and active, very active. They get at least a couple of posts a day, so it's definitely worth checking out Cannon Fire. But I don't think they host the Oerth journals. I think it has its own website. So anyway, oh, John, thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate the support. All righty, let's see. No, not at all, Tony. You've been wonderful. Let's see. Greyhawk Online. Greyhawk Online. I think you're right, Terry. I think it is Greyhawk Online to get the journals. Let's see, Scott. That was issue 164. was my See the Pomarge and Die was the article. So at least I think it was 164. Am I getting that wrong? I will check in mere moments. 167. So yeah, Dragon 167 has my article on the Pomarge called "See the Pomarge and Die," and some of the material from there was used in the Adventure Begins, which was very cool. So anyway, alrighty. If any Satori, any cool known Greyhawk bards could use as a mentor? Well, there's Geller. He's a pretty famous one. Yeah, so that'd be my suggestion. So anyway, we are at time, so I'm going to say thank you all so much for showing up tonight. Had a wonderful time. I would heartily recommend everybody zoom over to to Cannon Fire and see what's going on over there. Check out Dave's stuff. I'm sorry, Rob's stuff, and have a wonderful night. Hope you all enjoyed it. Talk to y'all later. Oh, Gabriel, the answer is no. But I am continuing more of the Beyond the Flanness stuff. So anyway, night, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your night.